Keeping the head down and in line is a key skill in maintaining alignment and keeping resistance low in every stroke. And while that's critically important, it's just the starting point. If swimmers can't maintain their alignment throughout every single aspect of the stroke in a continuous and ever-changing manner, they're going to be creating resistance in all sorts of ways that's ultimately going to be slowing them down. Hi everyone, Andrew here, helping you help your swimmers get faster. Going fast is all about keeping resistance low. It's not just the big giant skills that can create a lot of drag and slow swimmers down. It's also the accumulation of a lot of small mistakes that can add up to a big impact. And when those small issues aren't being addressed, swimmers aren't going to swim as fast as they otherwise could. The challenge is that improving these skills isn't particularly easy. In this video, we'll talk about what they are and how to improve them. Let's check it out. Why does continuous alignment matter? Well, resistance is relentless. Every loss of alignment is going to be punished, and that means less speed. Another way of thinking about that is that 10 little mistakes can add up to the same impact as one big mistake. And so if swimmers have the big boxes checked, but they're making lots of little mistakes, it can be just as problematic as if they were making some really bad, really egregious errors. Another analogy is that it's like death by 1,000 cuts. Lots and lots of little errors can have the same impact as one really big issue. And a lot of these small errors arise because swimmers are constantly shifting their shapes and their positions. Whether they're rotating, whether they're undulating, swimmers are always moving, and as they move, there's opportunities to fall out of alignment, and so alignment needs to be managed dynamically as opposed to just statically. And the example I used earlier of keeping the head still is only one part of the problem. Yes, swimmers do have to keep the head still, but then they have to manage all the moving parts that are happening around that stable head position. And so the bottom line is that less resistance equals more speed, and more resistance equals less speed. So in that context, everything matters, and every opportunity to improve needs to be pursued if swimmers want to get better. So what actually is continuous alignment? Well, it's the moment-to-moment management of alignment that allows... So what is continuous alignment? It's the moment-to-moment management of alignment to keep resistance as low as possible. And so that needs to happen as the body rotates from side to side, as the body undulates up and down. It needs to happen through the breath, which is another big change in body position and alignment. And it needs to happen off the start and off the wall. Swimmers have to learn how to shift positions in ways that keep resistance low. As much as possible, they're trying to stay within the shadow of the body. So if they rotate the body to the right, they're not going to kick the leg out to the left. And of course, swimmers can't maintain perfect alignment throughout the entire stroke, but they're only going to do that. They're only going to move away from optimal alignment if it allows them to create propulsion or if it allows them to breathe. If they don't create propulsion, they're obviously not going to move forward through the water. And if they don't get air, they're not going to have the energy in order to perform those movements. So they have to create propulsion, they have to breathe. But other than that, they're trying to keep alignment as effective as possible, resistance as low as possible, so that they can go as fast as possible. So underwater, swimmers have to undulate, but they need to figure out how to do that without exposing a ton of surface area that creates more resistance. They have to move the body in a way that allows them to create propulsion without exposing the chest, the head, the hips to create more resistance. In freestyle, swimmers have to rotate. They have to manage their body position from side to side without deviating from those positions as well. And so they have to make sure that everything is staying together as they rotate. They're not arching the back, they're not twisting the spine, they're not moving the head. All those little adjustments, they need to be made in a way that doesn't create more resistance. And that could be as simple as the hand entries too. They're finding ways to enter the water cleanly so that they don't create resistance in that respect either. It's a lot of little things that all matter, especially through the breath and through the rotation. We'll see the same thing in backstroke. They've got to shift from side to side, and you can see things are moving around a little bit, and she's got to control that in a way that allows her to use the arms effectively to create propulsion without creating a ton of resistance through her torso, through her body. And so you can see that while the head stays relatively stable, there's all these other moving parts that are moving around that stability, and she has to find a way to do so to move from position to position without creating a ton of resistance through a loss of alignment in any way. The same thing is happening breaststroke with lots of up and down motion. She gets back into that really great alignment every stroke, but she's got to find ways to balance the up and down motion that minimizes how much resistance she creates. So at any given point of the stroke cycle, she's trying to stay as aligned as possible to keep resistance as low as possible, which allows her to swim as fast as possible. And of course, we'll see the same thing in butterfly. There's that same up and down motion. Swimmers have to manage alignment throughout each aspect of the stroke, when they go to breathe, when they go through the pull, when they execute the kick. At each point, the body position is changing, the shape of the body is changing, and things have to be managed in a way that keeps resistance as low as possible. It's not just about getting the hips up or keeping the breath low. It's all the little things that contribute in a way that adds up to significant potential issues with alignment, which means losses in speed. So what's the challenge with improving continuous alignment? Well, as you might get the sense already, it's pretty vague. It's not a very concrete skill. It's not a just do this type of thing. There's not one movement that swimmers have to perform. It's not always obvious what needs to actually change, what needs to be done, and it's hard to see errors and opportunities for improvement. It's subtle. It's not super clear, and that can make things difficult. It's a lot more concrete to think about having the arm at 90 degrees or whatever it's going to be than dealing with this abstract concept of finding ways to keep resistance as low as possible while managing different body positions and different transitions from different body positions. When it comes down to it, it's all about perception and awareness. A lot of swimmers, perhaps even most swimmers, can't feel the opportunities to reduce resistance, and as a result, they're not going to make any changes. Talented swimmers, on the other hand, often can feel these opportunities, and they organize their body in a way that allows them to keep resistance as low as possible. To address that, we have to actually build talent into the swimmers. We have to help them feel. We have to help them become more aware. And once they are, they can start to learn many of these subtle skills. But without that awareness, it's very difficult to just point to something and help them change it if they can't feel it in the first place. By helping them feel where they're creating resistance, where the opportunities for improvement are, we can help them learn this critical skill. When it comes to solutions, the answer is fairly simple, although it's not particularly easy. We have to help swimmers feel where they're creating more resistance and then provide them with the opportunity to figure out how to reduce that resistance. And so it's all about feel, it's all about creating awareness, it's all about helping swimmers feel where they're creating pressure on the body as they move through the water, and then trying to find opportunities to reduce that pressure so that they can keep resistance lower. And so just like swimmers need to learn to feel pressure on their arm in order to create propulsion, they need to feel pressure on their torso, on their body, on their head perhaps, in order to find ways to reduce that pressure, to reduce the amount of resistance they create so that they can swim faster. Step one is to clean up basic alignment skills. There's no sense in worrying about the details if swimmers aren't getting the big picture right. You've got to take care of the big problems before working on the small ones. Make sure horizontal alignment is in check. Make sure lateral alignment is in check. Swimmers need to be swimming level in the water, and in fly and breast, there needs to be an appropriate amount of undulation. If swimmers are plowing through the water, you don't need to worry about the continuous alignment skills. If swimmers are riding a roller coaster in fly and breast, that needs to be taken care of first. And the same thing goes for lateral alignment. Swimmers need to be swimming straight. If they're moving their head side to side all over the place in freestyle and backstroke, that needs to get locked in. These basic skills need to be improved first before worrying about more higher level skills like continuous alignment. There's no sense in trying to work on the details when the big picture is just such a mess. So clean up basic alignment skills first, and then with swimmers that have already got this down, now it's time to start focusing on the continuous alignment skills. At the same time, many of the strategies we're about to discuss next can be useful for helping swimmers become more aware, and so at any point they can be useful in small volumes, but focusing on them doesn't make a whole lot of sense if swimmers can't get the basics down first. First up is resisting the body, and so that almost always includes wearing clothing. So t-shirts, shorts are two really great examples, two really great starting points, and they're accessible to everyone. So when swimmers have more resistance on the body, swimmers are going to become more aware of how the body moves through the water. They're going to better feel the hot spots. They're going to feel if there's a ton of resistance on their shoulders. They're going to feel if there's a ton of resistance across the chest or across their hips or whatever it's going to be. And if they can start to feel that, they can start to become more aware of it. Now they have the opportunity to change it. And so different types of clothing can be effective because if you wear shorts, for instance, that's not going to affect what's happening up top, but it is going to affect what's happening across the hips. And likewise, if swimmers are wearing a t-shirt, that's going to draw a lot more attention to what's happening across the upper body and the chest. as opposed to what's happening in the hips. And so different types of clothing can be really effective for helping swimmers become more aware of the resistance that they're creating. And at an even simpler level, it just changes what they feel. And the more times that you change what they feel, that's different input into their brain. And the more input they get, the more varied and relevant input, the more likely it is they're going to solve this problem. Another really important benefit is that when the clothing comes off, swimmers can better feel how the water travels over the body. When swimmers are wearing clothing, the water is not going to be flowing over the body. They may feel the pressure of the water through the t-shirt. They're not going to have the same skin contact of the water flowing over the body like it does when the shirt's not on. And when the t-shirt comes off, all that sensation is going to come rushing back. And so it's kind of like if you're in a brightly lit room, the lights go off, you wait 2 minutes, and then you turn the lights back on. All of a sudden, the same amount of light is blinding, whereas 3 minutes earlier, it didn't bother you at all. You get the same impact when you take the clothing off, and all that sensory information comes back. So again, better feel, more awareness. Now we have the opportunity for more change. And so it's a simple strategy. It doesn't require anything special. You just have swimmers wear a t-shirt, you have them wear a pair of shorts, and then you take that off, you put it back on, you take it off, you put it back on, and you give them more sensory experiences to help them become more aware of how the water is flowing over the body and how they can manipulate their position in order to eliminate resistance. Now we're going to take a look at a different strategy that uses the same basic premise to help swimmers become more aware of the resistance they're creating. And so the faster swimmers go, the more drag they create. By going faster than normal, we can help swimmers become more aware of the resistance they're creating. Anything that allows them to go really fast is going to be really effective. Cords can be really good, fins can be really good as well. The advantage of fins is that you can get a lot more repetitions in. The advantage of cords is that you can create a lot of speed with a cord. It's just very difficult to get enough practice in to really make a practical difference. The idea here is that if swimmers can feel increased pressure on certain areas of the body, they can then work to reduce pressure in those areas. And so if they realize when they're using fins, they feel a lot of pressure on the shoulders, they feel a lot of pressure on the chest, they feel a lot of pressure on the hips or the thighs, especially when they change positions, well, now they can start to change that because they have a better awareness of it. They can feel it. They can start to adjust what they're doing. And the value of using fins is that you can allow swimmers to get a lot of practice going fast. And the more practice they get, the more potential change they get. So the more they can be exposed to these really high speeds, to the feeling of resistance on the body, the more effective they're going to be at creating change. Weight belts can also be really effective for two separate reasons. The first reason is the position of the belt itself. It's on the hips. And if the hips are in check, swimmers can control their position throughout the stroke of their hips. A lot of problems are going to be solved. And of course, if swimmers can't feel what their hip's doing, how are they going to make that change? How are they going to make that adjustment? By adding the weight belt to the hips, we've just added a ton of mass to the hips. They're not particularly streamlined, so they're going to create drag just by moving through the water. And that's going to help swimmers become much more aware of how their hips are moving as they move through the water. And as we've already mentioned, the more aware they are, the more opportunity they have to create effective change. The other big benefit of the weight belt is that weight belts make it a lot harder to maintain alignment. So if swimmers can create any sort of change with the weight belt, it's going to be a whole lot easier to make that change happen when they don't have the weight belt on. So not only does the weight belt help swimmers become more aware of what they're doing, and it challenges them to execute alignment skills at a higher and higher level, and it makes it easier to execute those skills once the weight belt is removed. The next strategy is one that magnifies the impact of all the previous strategies. And so when swimmers lose alignment, even in subtle ways, they're always using the hands to compensate. They may be sculling actions, they may be bracing actions, they may be sweeping actions. These actions all hide mistakes and loss of alignment. Because if alignment is lost, swimmers need to find a way to balance themselves in the water, and the hands are the easiest way to make that happen. If we take away the hands by closing the fist or any other similar position, now all those mistakes are going to be exposed. And once those mistakes are exposed, then swimmers can better feel the mistakes that they're making. And again, the more awareness they have, the more opportunity they have to create change. What's great about this strategy is you can use it in any context, and it's really effective when used with the other strategies we've just talked about, whether that's wearing clothing, using a weight belt, or overspeed swimming. And it helps make those strategies even more effective because now swimmers can't hide from their mistakes. They can't compensate for those mistakes. And with more awareness comes more change. So if you want to turn up the effectiveness of any sort of alignment strategy, and certainly continuous alignment strategies as well, Have swimmers close their fist, perform the same activities with closed fist, and there will be significantly greater challenge to maintain alignment because swimmers can't compensate for any losses of alignment with different hand actions that allow them to maintain stability. And all these activities should not be performed casually. They need to be trained. They need to be challenged with performance. Ask for speed, ask for stroke count, ask for stroke rate, ask for different combinations of the three. By asking swimmers to change their performance, they have to change how they swim. And getting change is what training is all about. We're trying to help swimmers discover better ways of moving through the water. When they're doing activities designed to improve continuous alignment and they're trying to perform at a higher level, well, they're going to have to find ways to lower resistance. If we're having them swim with a t-shirt and we're asking them to take fewer strokes or go faster, well, they're going to have to do that while managing the challenges that the t-shirt creates. So they have to be better with their alignment, and they have to be better with their alignment throughout the entire stroke. You can also add fatigue. Fatigue builds resiliency, and obviously swimmers need to be able to execute these skills under pressure at the end of races, and fatigue also drives learning. As swimmers get tired and they're trying to accomplish a certain goal, well, they're going to have to find better and better ways to make that happen because they have less and less energy available to get the job done. And when they're put in a different context, they have to find slightly different solutions. And a lot of times those solutions transfer to other contexts by exposing them to some fatigue and asking them to perform different continuous alignment activities. When they're tired, they're going to learn in a different way as compared to when they're fresh. And that usually means better skills in the long run. So by asking swimmers to perform, they have to create change. Change is what's necessary for progress. And by adding fatigue, we're going to help swimmers become more resilient, and we're going to help them find alternative strategies to keep resistance low, to keep alignment optimal so that they can go fast. This is a breaststroke set using a weight belt. They're going to go 4 rounds of 350s plus 150. The first 350s are always with the weight belt. They're descending those 1 to 3 at the same stroke count, and they're finishing off with a 50 breaststroke that's without the weight belt. That 50 breaststroke gets better as they go through the set. The first 350s, they're going to go 25 drill of some sort and then a 25 breaststroke. So the first round, it's breast with dolphin kick. Second round is breaststroke, breathe every other stroke with the head up. Third round is breaststroke with flutter kick. Fourth round is breaststroke, breathe every other stroke. So every other stroke, the head is down during the breath. So what we're trying to do here is we're challenging swimmers to maintain their alignment even with the weight belt. They've got to find ways to perform, descend 1 to 3 at the same stroke count, and by adding the drills, we're challenging their alignment in different ways as well. With the dolphin kick, they've got to manage the up and down motion. With the flutter kick, they're going to be flatter. And then when we change the breathing position, they have to learn how to manage their body position and feel how their body position changes as they breathe. So these are all ways to challenge the ability to maintain alignment throughout the entire stroke, and that is what we're trying to do. And the weight belt magnifies the impact of the set because it draws more attention to what the hips are doing, and it makes it more difficult to be effective with the hips. Next set is a freestyle set. We're using Overspeed as our strategy. They're going to go 825s freestyle with fins. The odds are hit 100 speed. Evens are hit 50 speed. So the odds are going to be a little bit faster. The evens are going to be a little bit slower. Now, what also is going on is the first, the second, the fifth, and the sixth. The first 12 and a half is going to be head up with the eyes right at the surface. So their body position is going to be a little bit off, and they're going to be better able to feel that because they're going really fast with the fins. They'll have a better understanding of the impact of the head, and they're going to have a better understanding of the resistance they're creating across the chest and across the shoulders. Number 3, number 4, number 7, number 8, those are all done with the head down the entire time. The first 4, they're also with tennis balls, so we're taking away the hand. So any compensations they make, it's going to be a lot more obvious, and they're going to have to be much better at controlling their position and controlling their alignment in order to go fast. These are all done in 100 breathing pattern, so they've got to execute with a great breath as well. After those 8, they'll give them a chance to put it all together. They got to hit 100 speed in the first round, and they're going to try to descend those 1 to 3 across the rounds. So by using Overspeed, by using the different positions, and by using the tennis balls, we're challenging them to maintain their alignment and maintain their alignment throughout the stroke cycle in different ways, and we're helping them better feel where they're creating resistance, and that will allow them to figure out how to reduce that resistance. Last set, we are wearing clothing, and it is an underwater kicking set. They're going to go 4 12.5s underwater kick with shorts, and they're going to do that at 0.60 seconds per cycle. So that's how long they have for each kick, and they're going to do that as fast as possible. The odds are always from a push. The evens are always from a dead start. Then they're going to go 25 swim fast with 12.5 underwater dolphin kick to start. So they're going to take those skills that they felt during the underwater kicking and transfer that into an underwater fast breakout and great swim. The next round, they're going to do the same thing with the t-shirt. So the first round, they'll have more resistance across the legs. The second round, they'll have more resistance across the upper body. And then the third and the fourth round will repeat the first and the second round, but now the kick rate is going to be faster. They're going to be moving faster. They have a little bit more resistance. And because the kick is going to be faster, it's going to be harder to maintain those skills as they move through this kicking. And because the kick rate is faster, it's going to be more difficult to execute those skills. And of course, they have to be able to execute those skills at fast kick rates. So we're exposing them to the challenge that they ultimately need to be able to solve in order to go fast. If you want to learn more about how elite swimmers maintain alignment throughout each and every aspect of their stroke cycle, check out the video below.